work is concrete.
This call is now being recorded.
Okay, but the text is a methodological area. Text has got a lot of strategies and methods. Okay, and that is what that yesterday Saussure has said that we are going to find certain method, and that is only idea of structuralist. Okay, through picking out structures in a certain work, we are going to find certain methods, or we are going to imply certain methods. Okay, and that was the idea of structuralist theories. Now here also it goes little further, because it is post structuralism. He says work is very concrete. Okay, it is a solid thing, whereas the text involves a lot of methodological fields. Okay, so Barth says that work has a material existence, but text does not. Please remember this. Work has a material existence. Text is not. Text, you can say, in other words, text is very abstract. Okay, so you cannot. He says the difference between the text and the work. Barth says that the work is very concrete. It occupies a portion of book space. Okay, book space means bookshelf. So by work, as I told you, work means that particular uh, you know how should I say, that particular hard bound thing that occupies a space in our bookshelf. If you have a library at home, if you buy a book, and if you pick it, keep it, that you call, that is a work. You don't say that is a text. Okay, you say that is a work of Shakespeare that I have bought and I have tucked it in my shelf. Okay, so that is what is work according to Barth. Okay, so that work is very solid thing. So it occupies a space in our bookshelf. Text, on the other hand, is the methodological field. You don't say that text, you call that work, that solid thing that you buy and you keep it in your shelf. Okay, whereas you cannot buy text. Text, he says, the methodological area that is involved in that particular work is work. Okay, so work can be seen in bookstores. Okay, sorry, the thing that involves a lot of methodology is text. Okay, so when you are buying a book, you can say that the work can be seen in bookstores. Okay, uh, or if you go to National Library of Kolkata, I have been there, or the British Library, then you will find catalogs are there. So in catalogs, what you find the work. Okay, but text actually is self revealing. Okay, it articulates itself according to or against certain rules. It exists. Okay, it exists and it articulates about itself, whether you accept that or you do not accept that, but it is, and it is articulating itself. Okay, so while the work is, you can hold the work in hand, but the text is held in language. Okay, a text, please remember this. If you have a notebook with you, you can make a note. Work, you can hold it in your hand. Text, you will find it in language. So text is held in language, so it exists only as discourse. Text exists only as discourse. Okay, so the text is experienced only in an activity of reading. What you are reading? You are reading the work, but while you open and go through the pages, you are experiencing the text. Okay, and how you experience text? Only through the activity of reading. Okay, so these are the two differences he talks about, text and work. I think you have understood this. And text, he says, is never is a language, is a kind of explanation which is not direct. Okay, which is very much metaphorical. There are paradoxes, there are irony, that you have to pick up those different figures of speech in that particular text, and you need to understand. Okay, Now, what does this mean? Death of the author. So, after we read, are we killing all these authors? What is this? What is this idea? And when you read it for first time, you find this idea very new. What is death of the author? Okay, so actually, this is nothing but it is a commentary on the author. Alright. So, first, when we are talking about author, who is this entity? Okay, how did this author emerge? Okay, what functions did he perform in order to produce that work? Then who killed the author? Did we kill the author? No, who killed the author? What does that mean? Okay, and what does death imply? So, as I told you, in a text there are nothing direct, they are metaphorical, they have to be understood. Okay, they are very reflective. So actually death here implies what? Nobody directly goes and kills the author when he writes a book. Okay, so how does he die? And if he dies, what does this death imply? That we shall see, and that will clear the idea of death of the author. Now, first of all, how did this author emerge? Okay, so um, if you say the example of baths, we had discussed a lot about baths. If you see baths, you will see that baths is a very modern figure. It's a very not modern in that sense. Modern here means new. Is a very new and emerging figure. He talks. He has spoken new things about text and work. Okay, he has talked about good things about post structuralist theories. Okay, and then you can say that Bach is a product of Western society. Of course, is a product of Western society. What we are, how we write, how people understand us, it is according to the concept of our Eastern society. Whereas if you look at Bach, he is a product of Western society. Okay, so so this particular author. Okay, when we see from our Indian point of view, what do we call author? Exactly, there is no direct translation of author, but we call it lekhak. But lekhak means writer, okay, not author. So if you see this direct translation, we don't have of author. We call lekhak, but lekhak ka direct translation है writer. Okay, so in such kind of societies where very ethnically we are different, uh, is there anyone trying to say something? I heard some noise. So, is there anyone trying to say something? Okay. Who is this? Anyone trying to say something? Okay. Anyway, uh, let's get back to what we were discussing. So yes, we have this word lekhak, but that is about writer, not about author. So ethnically we are different. Okay, you will find also that in Hindi you have many words for which you do not have exact translation in English. Okay, so similarly lekhak doesn't have any direct translation in English. So we have different ethnicities, that is what we call. So Bath, he talks about this different ethnicities. He says that the responsibility for a narrative is never assumed by a person. Please understand this. When you are reading a narrative, you never assume that any person, and when you read, no, you don't do that. Okay, but you need a mediator. Okay, who is this mediator? This is the performance or the mastery of the narrative code that may be possible to admire. Okay, um, so admire the beauty. What I'm trying to say is here, Bath says that suppose we do not have exact translation of author in many ethnical societies. Okay, or if there is no no exact word for this word author, no problem. But living in suppose East, we cannot assume the Western author. We cannot understand. We don't know their culture yet. Okay, we don't know Western culture. Okay, so we cannot understand the author exactly what is his background and what is his ethnic society. We don't know. So Bath says there is no need to know also. Okay, to read a text you need not have any assumption about that author from before, because you are ethnically different. You are living in one part of the globe and that author is living at another part of the globe. So you may not know him. And according to Barthes and these kinds of post structuralist and deconstructionist, also, there is no need to know the author. Okay, you don't need to know who is he. But if you read the novel or read that particular what do you say work, okay, then you understand that particular narrative from your own location, because you will never be understand able to understand from his location from where the book comes. You will understand the whole book from your location. Okay, so that is important. How you take that language, how you understand that language is important. Okay, so if you see our own mythology, we have two great writers, Valmiki and Tulsidas, isn't it? So these two geniuses, Valmiki and Tulsidas, we give them a lot of credit, okay, for giving shape to our narrative forms. Okay, Indian narrative form को initially shape up किया वाल्मीकि और तुलसीदास ने. Okay, so from the story of Lord Ram, okay, they gave us, okay, it is a gift of them. They gave us the idea of Indian narrative. So in that case, they are the writers. They are not the authors. So because we believe that Lord Ram existed. Okay. So the idea of Lord Ram is carried forwarded through these two great Indian writers. So on the contrary, if you see in Western classics like D. Cameron or Canterbury Tales, it is firmly attached to the author. Author has created those things. Okay, we have neither Valmiki or Tulsidas has created Lord Ram. Lord Ram was there. Okay, they just try to yeah, make his portrayal through literature. Okay, they made a narrative body and they gave it to us as a gift so that we can understand. Okay, so that Lord Ram and his words could be carried forward. So, in that case, they are not authoring it, they are the writers. Whereas these Western writers, they have not brought any idea from their past, from their own history. They have created it with the help of their creativity. Example is D. Cameron, Canterbury Tales, many. Okay, so they are the author. They have made it. So that is why he says, Barth says, and then Derrida also says. So that is why author, do not take author to such great height. Okay, author is just creating new things with the help of his creativity. So Barth is trying to explain this whole idea through a particular process and the development of Western thought. Okay, so he gives an example of a process from Western point of view. He talks about Renaissance period, Elizabethan period, and then King George also came. We had reminiscence of Renaissance during those time. So Renaissance period, the whole Western world, they displaced God from the center. Okay, Renaissance brought rebirth of new ideas. Okay, and according to this rebirth of new ideas, people at that time, they said that no, God is no more the center of the universe, man is the center of the universe. Okay, because man is the most intellectual being in the whole world, thus he is the center. So broadly speaking, this is the humanism idea of Renaissance, where they took man to be the center. So when Barth sees this whole idea of Renaissance, he sees it continuing in the rise of English imperialism. Okay, this empiricism was rising. Okay, and English people were getting more and more self-centered. Barth observed this whole issue. Okay, then he saw the idea of French rationalism. French also started to talk about more rationalism and scientific things. Then came the period of Reformation. Okay, that reflected in the life of Martin Luther, King Martin Luther. So actually, all these histories, one by one, step by step, okay, they led to the discovery of the prestige of the individual. Through all these phases of history, the Baths understood the prestige of one individual man. Okay, and this kind of faith also led to the rise of very positivism in philosophy. Okay, that was all happening in the time in Britain. So when now the world has become very man centered. I was discussing you yesterday or day before centric when man centric world. When I was teaching you feminism, I gave you this idea of androcentrism. Means when the world was very much man centered, now they started recognizing all the facts. Okay, facts, scientific facts which could be observed and which could be verified also. So it is in this centering and faith in the powers of the individual, centering and faith in the powers of individual when Barth sees the rise of capitalism. So Barth has his own idea, he doesn't follow Marxist theory, he sees his own thing. That previously if they talk about Western world, they thought that God is the center of the universe. Everybody, irrespective of anything, they have to obey God's orders and rules set down by the Bible. Okay, but slowly, when men become very scientific, they discover that no, Earth is not a flat thing like a plate; it is round. They discovered. They discovered telescope. They tried to look at the moon and all the heavenly bodies. They became very scientific. Okay, now they said no. God is not the center. We are the center of the world because everything revolves around us. We are the intellectual people. We discover. We can have scientific mind. Okay, so Bach is seeing all this, and then he sees that this idea of humanism, it has given rise to the idea of capitalism. You know what is capitalism? A system that is centered on a man and his wealth. Okay, when you are treated with regard to your wealth, that kind of idea is capitalistic ideas. So when Baths try to understand this whole idea with the help of literature, this faith, this confidence in the power of man, okay, to construct a stable world, a sphere of value and significance was also found in the concept of author. This is what is an author. Okay, so this whole idea came, as I told you. Then idea of individualism came. Okay, individualism led rise to capitalism. Then when we see this whole world where man is the center of all the system that is being established, and how his wealth is related to his establishment of himself in this whole world, when you look at literature, this particular faith on a man, this particular confidence in the power of the individual, okay, who claims that I can make a stable world, then that creates a very valuable and significant expression in the concept of the author. If you see the author, don't you see the author is he seems to be omniscient. Whatever is happening in a novel, take for example novel, author is everywhere. Okay, what is he doing there? He is imposing his power. I'm the omniscient. I'm present everywhere. Okay, whether in if you take example Shakespeare, whether it is Rosalind's plight in Merchant of Venice, or if it is Julius Caesar suffering, the what do you say, the betrayal of his friendship, I am there. Author claims his position. in this literature. Okay, so this is what is the author. Author means using his creative mind. When he claims to be, he becomes an example of of a man, okay, who claims to be at the center of the universe, and he claims that he can bring about some stable world, and when he's expressing these qualities through his writings, then he is the author. Okay, now what performance is he carrying out? So what is the function? The author is performing or helping in the, he is doing certain tasks which leads to the interpretation of literary text. So the content of a work, it began to be understood and explained in terms of author's life. When we read a book, now also that I'm also doing that, when I'm trying to open the novel, first I'm trying to go to Wikipedia, find out the background of the author, from where does he belong, which age did he belong, what ideas did he believe. Okay, or if you get some more idea, what theories did he propagate in his novels. So I try to find certain basic idea about author's life, his experiences, his passions, his taste, we try to study. So, this tendency, according to Barthes, to look for casual factors in the life of the author, actually, what it did, it spill over from biographical school to the Marxist or psychological schools. So, it says that reading author's background is very much psychological. Okay, and it is a result of certain Marxist and psychoanalytic ideas. So Bath, actually what he's trying to say here, Bath sees that the continuing uh, domination of the author in the way some critics read the literary work as a product of the author. Okay, so Bath also refers to the way we classify some histories under the head of author, to emphasize our inability to break free from the author as a determining force. So we actually, as readers also, we have made the author so powerful. We need to know him. He is an individual, what I explained to you now, just now. So he's an individualistic man. Okay, he is claiming his position. So actually this power is given by who? We readers are only giving him such power. We are making that author the center of the universe, which is not needed. Okay, according to Barthes. So the implication of this kind of classification, that we see author as a living force behind the work, isn't it? When we are reading the book, we are finding that this author is a living force behind this whole work. Okay, it is, and we also think that it is none else but the author is speaking to us about his own views and experiences through the medium of language. Okay, so this is actually the view which is argued by these deconstructionists and also by the post-structuralists. Okay, because according to them, when you find omniscient author to be omniscient, that is a fallacious idea according to these theories. Okay, now when we are talking about killing the author, so how do we kill the author? Who killed the author? So if we are trying to give him so much power to the author that he is omniscient, okay, it is also very certain that some writers have attempted to counter it. Okay, many authors from time to time they are saying that no, no, please don't read the text through us. Okay, don't make us a channel of your reading. Read the book independently, understand it on your own. Okay, don't depend on us. We have written, it's over. Now you read it on your own. Try to make understanding on your own. Okay, so the similar kind of author you will find they are there who are countering this kind of fallacious reading. According to Barthes, this is a fallacious reading. So in France, if you see, there's a person called Mallarme, Mallarme. He was the first person to see. Okay. And he found the necessity to substitute language for the author. Author should not pretend that he is always there. When you read novel, you will find that this author is there everywhere. So Malam first said that you have to substitute the language of the author. Okay, who until then was supposed to be have the complete control of the language. So when we were reading also, we were experiencing that yes, author is there, we can't detach author. So Malam says that the writing should be little bit now twisted and changed, so that author will not rise here, but author's text will rise more high. Okay, so there is another very important critic called Paul Valery. Very often we are quoting Paul Valery. He also, in his own way, he stressed the written nature of all linguistic and philosophical projects. He gave one new way to the nature of linguistic and philosophical projects. So Barthes goes on to discuss the role of individual, of a person who is a reading rather than of the author. So Barth finally he narrows down to the revised theory of language. Okay, that language finally came up, that became the culprit. It is the language that killed the author. Okay, finally the language was twisted and turned, so that gradually what happened, author did not become omniscient. Okay, so in that way language according to Barthes was the one in killing the author. So language is the primary culprit. So Barthes shows us that the act of stating something is an empty process. Okay, when you're stating something, that is an empty process which does not require the support of the speaker. Okay, speaker need not be there directly. Okay, ऐसे हो रहा है वैसे हो रहा है, I will dictate and you will listen only to me. That is not correct. Okay, according to Barthes. So what he is trying to say is that meaning of a sentence does not depend for a speaker to be there. Okay, language can be free flowing, it can go on its own. Language has its own identity, it should move on its own. You don't need any speaker to speak. When you are reading a text, okay, you don't need any speaker to speak for you the reader. Okay, he is going to take you, hold your hand and take you, that is not needed. Okay, according to Barthes. So the signs and words, signs, SIGNS, and the words themselves are enough to set a meaning into your reading process. So the authorial intent is not necessary element in understanding a text. You do not need an author to guide you to understand the text. Okay, you are rational enough, you are intelligent enough to understand the language and understand the text. You are independent enough. So here the author here disappears from the work. Okay, according to post structuralist ideas, there is no individual, there is no self, there is only a subject. Okay, so the term individual has the implication that a human being in some way is finally formed. Human is a stable creature to control and create things around him. So individual means you, me, any other reader of literature. Okay, so you are independent enough to read and interpret on your own. You don't need any guidance from the author. Okay, maybe your location is different, maybe you are from east, so you do not need to understand the author and his background. Understand the text, understand the meaning behind the text. Try to go, within those lines. Go delve dive down into the text. Okay, find out the metaphors, the rich what do you say, the rich narrative style that the author has given to you. Find out those. Okay, and try to understand that on your own. Do not depend on the author. The language is complete in itself to give you your individual ideas on the text. Okay, so this is what is death. Death actually means departure. He is no more there. Now we come to deconstruction theory, idea of deconstruction. So, we have done a bit in my earlier classes. There were bits, sections were there in your blocks where we had already discussed this idea of deconstruction. Now, this particular block broadly talks about deconstruction theory. And, this idea evolved in deconstruction. Actually, it is trying to dismantle the operation performed on a discourse to understand how its argument is constructed. Okay, it is trying to give you another approach to reading literature. Okay, when you are trying to, find the argument of that text. Okay, so there are some examples of poems given in order to explain this whole theory of deconstruction. Uh, So if you are typically looking at certain poems through deconstructive reading, then you will see that the one who is deconstructing the whole theory, sorry, the whole text, he is trying to examine all the hierarchies used by the structuralist. Okay, hierarchies means all the structures that he is picking up and is trying to explore. And you will see that how they are based to reveal certain very different moments from within the poem. Okay, and then as I was telling you last class, they try to find out the reversal of these texts, of these ideas. First, yesterday I was telling you that they were trying to find out the hierarchies. Okay, then they uh, saw through the text, they understood the metaphors, they understood different figures of speech. Okay, then they saw that no, this hierarchy of thought means this thought is primary, this thought is secondary, this is tertiary. No, this is not like that. When you reread it deeply, you just turn upside down this whole hierarchy. The less important you feel now, that is most important. Primary idea can be secondary idea. Okay, so in this way you can reverse the whole hierarchical structure in the poem's argument. Now I am talking about how you are going to criticize, how you are going to make a critical commentary on poems using deconstruction theory. So when you are into deconstruction theory, you take up a structure just like structuralist said. Take up that structure. No need to go to the poet and his background, his biography. You don't need. Take up that structure of a poem. Okay. Try to find out simply try to find out which are the more important aspects, which are the lesser important aspects of that particular structure. You have made a hierarchy, more important, less important. Now when you are reading it very deeply, you are seeing that no, the thing that you saw less important is more important, and more important thing is lesser important. So you are just reversing this hierarchy, and this leads to the collapse of the poem's primary argument. Whatever might be primary for the poet, that becomes secondary or tertiary for you as a reader. You take from your location certain different points to be primary than the others. So that also may happen. So this is what is how you are reading in a from the point of view of deconstructive theories. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, I just have few minutes, so I will not stop. I'll continue. Uh, yeah. So this is how you understand in a very precise manner. This is how you interpret poem from deconstructive theories. Okay. So deconstructive theories they also same the same thing that no need to refer to any author. Okay. Uh, yes, this is what we have done. Then there are some examples of poems, and they are showing how these hierarchies are operating. Now, if you have read this particular poem, this is canonization. Here, John Donne is talking about. Um, he is talking about that troubled how one is troubled by the hindrances caused by one outsider's speech in the act of love. Okay, the poet asks the intruder to keep quiet and not to disturb him. Actually, in this poem, poet is the narrator, and he says that let me continue with the process of my love, and there is some intruder there who has come to disturb him. He said that do not disturb, you stay away, let me okay delve deep into my love. This is the basic idea that I'm telling you. So here you can see, if you see this particular poem, canonization. Okay, very shortly I told you, but still you can probably see that the if you read the poem, you will find that the poet's world is divided into two. Okay, not the poets but the poems world, because they don't consider poet in any way close to the poem. So if you read this poem from deconstructive ideas, you will see that the poem's world is divided into two. There is a private sphere of the lover's experience, and there is a public sphere of the outer world. There are two worlds. So to speak in structuralist point of view, these two binaries, they are operating in this poem in the private and public. Okay, or you can say the hierarchy, private or the public, or secondary idea is between the lover centered world and the materialistic renaissance world of the time. So you find these binaries, two opposing points. So these binaries could be considered as the metaphysical hierarchies. Okay, that is how the deconstructionist look at. So the poet understands, he depicts the reality of the situation in terms of the binaries. So these binaries are important. And which is more important, that the deconstructionist theorist, the critic is free to do. Okay, what you think is more important, this private sphere of the poem, or the public one? What is more important, the love centered world or the materialistic world of the Renaissance period? No, it is Renaissance, that is why it is important. So which one you feel you are free to make the hierarchy on your own. So that is the freedom given by the deconstructionist theories. Okay, has your teacher arrived? Not yet. Okay, so I'm done with this part. Let me see what is more important for you. I think we are done. Yeah, we are done with this part. I hope that you have understood what is this general idea. And similarly, if you go with the drama, and if you see the if you put your, if you want to make a criticism out of that drama from deconstructionist point of view, then in dramas also you get broader plot. Okay, whereas your ideas were very squeezed in poems, dramas are very broad. So you can find different hierarchies in the dramas. Okay, the different points, as I explained through canonization, they are there. You have to look at that. You means your individual reader as well as critic. Okay, and you can make the deconstructionist theory, you can put in, and you can say on your own, from your own stand, which you find higher in the hierarchy and lower in the hierarchy. So this is the whole liberty given by the deconstructionist theorists. Okay, where author is nowhere discussed. You look at the text from your own point of view. You give your own idea from your own location, from your own stand, from your own position. All right. So, with this, we come to an end of the today's class. Next, we'll be meeting on Monday. All right, and we'll be continuing with whatever we have next class. So, till then, have a happy weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Goodbye for today.